Phnom Penh, capital of Cambodia. It is April 2019. Just over 40 years ago, on the 6th of January 1979, this busy Southeast Asian city lay silent. Pol Pot's army, the Khmer Rouge, had fled from Vietnamese forces. It would take several years for Cambodian people to return, having been forced into the countryside to work as peasants to meet Pol Pot's communist vision. Anyone seen to defect were systematically starved, tortured and murdered in hundreds of what became known as killing fields. Chung Ek, just outside of Phnom Penh, is one example, and now a tourist destination. It is hard to imagine how Pol Pot and his commanders could have envisaged such psychotic levels of cruelty. A so-called killing tree, its jagged edges used to slit throats. An estimated 2 million were wiped out in under 4 years from a population of 7 million. Khmer turned against Khmer, most of them placed into mass graves such as these. Women, men and children.
It's pretty well known now, particularly because of the Khmer Rouge tribunal. And they came in, they sacked the city, they forced everybody out at gunpoint, they took everything that they could, anything that wasn't bolted down they claimed, and they moved everybody out into the countryside, and in the process they became a psychopathic, maniacal, stupid, paranoid group of people who saw enemies everywhere. First they took care of them, and then they saw enemies within their own and they took care of them and slaughtered about a third of their own population.
Tuol Sleng, also known as S21, was a high school in a suburb of Phnom Penh that the Khmer Rouge transformed into a torture prison, one of dozens throughout Cambodia. Prisoners were subjected to a level of cruelty which many have found hard to believe. Chum Mai, now 88, is the one living survivor of S21, and until recently worked there as an official tour guide. After being tortured for 10 days, he was identified as a useful, fully qualified mechanic and ordered to fix typewriters, upon which Khmer Rouge soldiers used to type up the confessions of involvement in espionage, which were routinely beaten out of prisoners. These confessions were largely untrue and a last resort by prisoners in the hope that their lives would be spared, or simply the hope that their abusers would beat them less heavily and reduce the frequency. Chum Mai himself was beaten 3 times a day, for 6 hours each time, for 10 days, with a twisted metal pole, before being employed as a typewriter repairman and general mechanic. For his services, Chum Mai's life was spared. I have been interviewed so many times. I'm really busy even on Sundays. I have spoken to all 25 cities and provinces in Cambodia, and I've given talks in Germany, Japan, Switzerland, France and the USA. Cambodian people visit S21 to learn what happened. It's important for people to do this so that they can tell the rest of the world what happened. But people also want to work and move on. I cannot blame them. I understand and support this feeling. After the Khmer Rouge, the city of Phnom Penh had been destroyed, and at S21 there were only 17 survivors from 22,000. The others had their throats cut before the Vietnamese could reach them. All the buildings and amenities, everything, had been destroyed by Pol Pot's army. Afterwards, some people dealt with it by not returning to the city, Some dealt with it by leaving the country for others nearby, and some came back. Everyone dealt with the atrocities in their own way. So have people moved on from this madness? Have the population managed to deal with the psychological damage caused by such horror less than a generation ago? One of the ways Cambodia has moved on is through the Khmer Rouge tribunals held at the ECCC, specially set up law courts just outside of the city from the early 90s.
With the tribunal, that has done, it's been widely criticised and in many cases for good reason, but it's done enormous good. It's put the Khmer Rouge on the school curriculum. There have been a lot of programs reuniting family members who hadn't seen each other since before 1975. It's discussed about openly. No one's frightened of the Khmer Rouge anymore. One of my greatest personal experiences was to sit with a bunch of very old ladies who had had a very hard life and they were from the remote villages, and they were dressed as such, and they were sitting there in the courtroom not 10 feet away from Q Sampan when he was pronounced guilty. And the look on their faces and the feeling you could get from them, it's like, yeah, we got this bastard. He's not going to touch you anymore. And I think a lot of people, there are 500,000 people went through the tribunal's doors, and I think it did a lot of good in terms of helping people come to terms with what was an enormous tragedy. And it wasn't the only tragedy that had occurred in this country over 30 years of war, went from 68 to 98, but it was by far the most significant.
So what did the younger generation think? I travelled to the University of Cambodia to find out.
I appreciate that I was born in Cambodia because I think it is a land of natural, yes, and nowadays it's in a peaceful and we have freedom, and we can get education. We can go wherever that we can do. We can go. That is, I still like this country.
Even no matter what we have now, it's better than the last 40 years, better than that region. But we still need more, because every country in the world, they still want to develop, even they are a developed country, but they still not stop at this. They still want to develop their country. Like me and all of my friends here, they are Cambodian, they are Khmer people. So they in their mindset that they maybe one day they can go abroad or they can only study here, but they can bring that knowledge that they have to make our country much more better than before. Yeah.
These students are clearly focused only on the future and not on the past. But not all students see things this way.
Yes, they really talk much about the problem. Yes.
Okay. And what kind of things do they talk about?
They talk about the hardly, and about the food, and about the killing.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
So they talk about details?
Not much detail, because they talk about some place is better than other place, so it's so different.
Is it the older members of the family who talk about it, or is it the younger ones? So, like, is it mother and father, or is it grandparents?
Grandparents. Yes. So when this time my parents also young too, so it's not hard for the young. It's just hard for the adult or elder that hard worker in this season.
Sure. And what's it like then being a young person in Cambodia now?
For body program and for new generation. They feel some person believe in this story, but some don't believe. It's because it sounds so terrible.
It does appear that amongst the older generation of Cambodian people, there is a fixation upon the dark past. Bunsak Butt, a 34-year-old Khmer photographer, does not see things in the same way.
I think the last 10 or 20 years ago, when I was a bit younger, I think they talk, but only sometimes I only hear from school, but from not much from them. But yeah, I hear from them sometimes. But recently, I never heard anybody say about this. I rarely hear people say about the Pol Pot of Khmer Rouge. Yeah, I think the new generation is, for example, the people like me, we never experienced that and we don't care much about it, you know. We just think about the future, think about what we should do to get out a better life. We don't care too much about this Khmer Rouge thing.
Just how much has Phnom Penh actually changed in the last 25 years? I asked Bill Irwin about this.
Phnom Penh's changed more than any place I've been to in the last 25 years. And I've been here for 25 years off and on. I lived here 94 to 99, and then I moved to Vietnam and then Afghanistan and Canada in between, and then I moved back in 2009, and I've been here since 2009 again, so another 10 years. So I was here about 5-6 years and then left for 10 years, and I've been here for 10 years. And I've never seen, of all the traveling I've done, I've been to 20 some odd countries, no place has changed more than Phnom Penh. Your typical 12-year-old soldier at the front line, Hun Sen's army. This is Ing Sari, brother number 3, who was voting in the 1998 election, and he was later arrested and tried for genocide and crimes against humanity, but died before he could be convicted. That's Noon Chia, and he just showed up out of the blue to be a witness at the Sam Bit case in Phnom Penh. Sam Bit was the guy who took the backpackers off the train in 1994, and then Chuk Rin and Sam Bit held them, and then supposedly Noon Pet killed them. But he showed up as a character witness for Sam Bit and Noon Pet, which was a bit of a joke. But that was them hoisting him up the courthouse room stairs to get him into the court.
Was there anything when you first came here that showed the impact of what had just happened?
Yeah, everything. Everything was, there were dirt streets. People closed their doors as the sun set. Everything was barbed wire. People were afraid. People didn't talk to each other too much about things. Everything was very surface when conversation and everything. And everything shut down. When the sun went down, everybody closed their doors and went in.
That was because they were afraid of Khmer Rouge fighters?
Just afraid of just the whole psychological impact that it had on the people. And I asked my kid, who's 26, do people ever talk about it? She goes, never. Never do they ever talk about it. They want to leave it behind.
I spoke to a local resident known as Belay about these times in the early 1990s, who moved to the city from nearby Myanmar and has lived in Phnom Penh for many years. Do you think, can you see that the people are affected by what happened in the Khmer Rouge 40 years ago, and how?
In which way?
Can you see that, do you hear people talking about it much, or?
Oh no, but earlier yes. When it's still in 94, which is Omtek have been left already, but still, because a lot of people are not going out late night, and then still wearing the traditional clothes, and then don't want to wear glasses because the effect is that if you don't want to show them that you're smart. That's why, but their eyesight is not good, but they can't see, and I tell them that you have to wear. They say, no, I don't want to wear. Those kind of thing. And one lady that came to visit our house, and then she was sitting on a sofa with a cushion, little cushion, so she hold the cushion, and then she probably sensed the cotton bud little bit, and then she start crying. And I was like, you okay, what happened? And that lady said that, no, it just made me miss that, because when those days when I don't have anything to eat, I sometimes chew those things. Those kind of things keep going, at least, like I said, 7-10 years. So 94, so probably after 5-10 years, it was like that. But nowadays, I don't see that. This Cambodia is become my home, and my real home is become my second home. And I love this country.
Okay, and what makes you love the people then?
Sorry?
What do you love about the people here?
Probably I can speak the language with them, maybe, and beginning, even though I don't speak with them, they're really kind. That's how I see them. They're okay with that. They're friendly in a way. Not friendly in the way that hi, hello all the time and then smiling. They're really into you to help and things like that. Those days, if I don't speak at all, and still they are really helpful.
The average wage in Cambodia is around $200 to $300 a month. That's considerably lower than you would get in Western countries. Having said that, the people here seem a lot happier. Perhaps Phnom Penh is now focused on the future. There is a residue of the past in grandparents, in difficulties that have gone on before that are absolutely unimaginable. But the city seems to have moved on now. A walk around a local market in Street 110 makes you think how happy these people seem to be and how content they are with their own situation. Perhaps having gone through what they have done has made them appreciate the finer things in life, eating, laughing with friends, talking. There even seems to be a pleasure in hard work. So, overall, it appears that Cambodia has moved on, Phnom Penh in particular. The horrors of the Khmer Rouge live on in the memories of the older ones, but it does also live on in the schools where it is taught, and it is seen as a lesson to be learnt from, and never to be repeated ever again. As Phnom Penh and the surrounding countryside prepare for Khmer New Year, the traditional time in this country for renewal and regeneration, it is clear that both city and country folk have, on the whole, come to terms with their terrible past and moved on.
កិនអញស៊ីសងសិនម៉ែទុយលះណាស់ទៅពីទារលុយរត់ទៅគ្នាអង្គុយក្តៅគូតមិនទាន់មីទូចថាអូវាឈ្នះហើយចាញ់មកកាក់មកអញទៅទិញមន់ព្រោះកូនឈឺឥឡូវវាក្រន់ល្បិតអញបន់លៀងឲ្យចំណៃមកកាក់ទិញមន់មកកាក់ទិញស្រាទៀនធូបមលូស្លាមកកាក់ទៅទិញត្រីកូនឈឺម្លឹងប្រឹងពពុះដីឲ្យកាក់គ្នា3អញទៅចាក់ហួយពួកអុកថាម៉ែវាកុំអានវអាប៉ោងអញឈ6នឹង1ហងធ្វើយ៉ាងហ្នឹងតិចគ្រូមិនជួយហងទៅចាក់ហួយចាក់ទៅក្នុងស្នៀតបើឃើញប្រុសគិតទៅអង្គុយព្រោកបើចាក់ខ្លាឃ្លោកឲ្យទៅកំឡោះបៀត